a homeland worth defending. A heritage to be proud of, a homeland worth defending. That's what Kristi, Noem and the Department of Homeland Security posted today on their Facebook page, along with a famous painting of Manifest Destiny entitled American Progress by, I believe his name was John Gass. Now, I'm not a painting expert, but I do know this painting well. It appears in our history books when we were in school. It's the white lady flowing in a white dress across the plains with the pioneers and the horse and buggy. And in the corner, in the dark left corner of that painting, we see fleeing buffalo, wildlife, and Native Americans. That is a very famous painting that celebrates American progress or white settler colonialism. And that was posted today on the Department of Homeland Security, a heritage to be proud of, a homeland worth defending. Now, if you don't see the messaging and the gaslighting going on in that message, I don't even know what to say. I started my morning, and we're going to start my commute, and we'll talk about this. Manifest destiny. This concept of manifest destiny of white settler colonialism by the Department of Homeland Security, and the year is 2025. Do you not feel like you are on drugs every single day you open your social media feed? I do. And actually, before I even saw that post this morning, which comes from the Trump regime and all of this like heavy propaganda that's going on supporting white nationalism. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, wrote an entire book celebrating white Christian nationalism as the true heritage of America. And we're at a point, you guys, where this is not something you can sit back and continue to just watch happen, thinking that it might go away in the next election. If you're thinking that way, you are not awake. And let them call you woke if you want to stand up and oppose it. Who cares? Let's talk about this. This image that was posted today on the Department of Homeland Security of John Gast's very famous painting called American Progress, and otherwise known as the picture used in all of our history books to explain manifest destiny. Now, if you're not very brushed up on your history, manifest destiny is the idea that, in simple terms, God is behind the expansionism of the white settler colonialism of the time. Why are you not moving, person? Sorry, I'm stuck at a red light. Or a red on-ramp, right? Which you do not need to honor if it's not turning. Go. Speaking of progress, so I'm not going to make any progress on this light because somebody doesn't want to run a red light and it's not turning green. Okay, sorry about that little delay. So those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, manifest destiny is the idea that God predetermined that the United States of America would be expanded from sea to shining sea. We know this story, we sing the songs growing up. It's part of our national mythology. And what I want to explain about manifest destiny is something that should be known, and it's actually in the image. It's in the image, the painting that we're talking about. If you look at the left side of the image, so when you get a chance, just look it up. Look up American Progress by John Gast, the famous painting of Manifest Destiny. And on the right side is bright colors and hues and sunshine, and it's showing the caravans of white settlers moving westward, the pioneers, and on the left side, it's dark, the colors foreboding, but if you look closer, you see Native Americans running away, all the buffalo running away, and even other wildlife. I think there's a bear running away from these white settler colonialists, or whatever you want to. But my point is this: Manifest Destiny holds that that's what God wanted. God wanted the genocide of millions and millions of indigenous peoples. God wanted the decimation of the buffalo herds. Now, to understand this historically, we have to understand that the people who believed in Manifest Destiny back then, because I'm going to be talking about the people who believe in it now, they did not see the decimation of the buffalo or the genocide of Native Americans as something to be lamented. They saw it as something to be celebrated, or at the very least to be kind to those who might need more a kinder, gentler genocide. They saw this as inevitable to progress. The harmful effects were seen simply as, well, this had to happen for the progress of the nation. But it's still the same thing. It's still the same idea that this land was made for the white settlers. We're not talking about the melting pot of America here. Let's get that straight. That was never the intention of Manifest Destiny. So let's get that straight. So today, when Kristi, Noem, and the Department of Homeland Security decide to post on their Facebook page this famous painting of Manifest Destiny with a caption that they put on there, a heritage to be proud of, a homeland worth defending. Understand that they're not just talking about the land, they're talking about white identity. And if you think that that's speculation, by now, go read Pete Hegseth's book, because it's all about white Christian identity. When they use the word Western, they mean white and white identity, which is something that they're pushing back up against any sort of critical reflection on history and any sort of critical reflection on Manifest Destiny. So what we're saying now, the Department of Homeland Security and Kristi, Noem, is that in the year 2025, these are things to still be celebrated. The decimation, the genocide, the racism, the raping of the land. That is what they say we need to be proud of. Now, let me also clarify one other thing, because we have people of color all throughout this current administration, which is, we have Kash Patel as the director of the FBI. J.D. Vance's wife is of Indian ancestry, and by that I mean Southeast Asian. And all of these guys are on board. How is that? How are they on board? Because they use this generic term of American and put themselves into that narrative. But there's no escaping the fact that this painting by John Gast celebrates the genocide of Native Americans, and it's not something that could be, it's not debatable, let's put it that way. So how do they do this? And so what they mean by heritage is assimilation. And assimilation to what, though? And then we have this notion of American culture. And American culture means white normativity. It means very specifically, and it's changed over time, but we shouldn't make any mistake, and critical history teaches us this. We shouldn't make any mistake here and thinking that the American vision was inclusive. It was not inclusive from the very beginning. Slavery was a clear indication of that. The genocide of Native Americans that predates the United States illustrates that. And so, of course, over time, as people fought and bled and died for their civil rights just to be included in being human race, let alone a citizen, being a human, and then later becoming a citizen, and civil rights all the way in the 1960s, which is ancient history for young people. But for the rest of us, I was born right after all of that. And some of us living today lived before the internet, if you could believe that, or before civil rights legislation was passed, if you could believe that. And so what they're counting on in this propaganda is a historical amnesia and a reductionism. They don't want us to teach history. They want us to teach propaganda. And that's everything that's behind Trump's patriotic education. They don't want to teach history. History is the facts. History is the narratives that have survived down through time. And to do real history, you have to strip away what I've heard described in academia as a bundle of silences, because history is the result of narratives that have been publicized, pushed, published, by those who are in power. And as America diversified in its power structure, meaning after civil rights, and as people identifying with white normativity, as more and more people outside of that scope of the culture of power began to take positions in academia and in other positions in society, inevitably there's going to be critical reflection on these historical mythologies. And that is exactly what they're fighting against today. They call it woke. They do all kinds of pejoratives. And their biggest message is you need to assimilate to white normativity. That's what they mean by American. And that's what they have always meant by American. And this onslaught of propaganda did not start in January of 2025 when Trump took office, but it has been put on steroids, especially this revisionist history and this demand for assimilation to whatever it means, to be American. And that means if you are not proud of the genocide of the indigenous peoples of this land, if you are not proud of these actions of clearly racist theology and narrative, then you haven't assimilated. That's the implicit message in Kristi Noem's Facebook post this morning, or the Department of Homeland Security's post this morning, by posting the famous painting of Manifest Destiny, American Progress by John Gast, and then saying a heritage to be proud of, a homeland worth defending. That's the implicit message behind there. And it's like, and if you don't feel it that way, then you might want to check your own positionality and privilege, because that is a clear, hostile message to Americans who do not share pride in white supremacy. I'll say it again. There is nothing godly about manifest destiny. There is nothing Christian about manifest destiny. And there is nothing biblical, if you want to go there, about manifest destiny. These are just ways that people negotiate with the text in order to implement whatever it is that they want to do. And we're living in, I said this morning before I even saw that article, it feels like I'm on drugs every time I open up social media and see what these people are saying and believing. And that leads to another thing. So all of what I'm telling you right now is part of an article that I'm going to be publishing on our Substack at the Proximity Portal. So please like and subscribe to this video. Please go over to the proximityportal.com and subscribe to our Substack. I'm doing a series of articles on manifest destiny in this painting and this post specifically, to unpack the fact that the people behind this, there are some who actually believe what they're saying. Like, I believe Pete Hegseth really believes in his Christian white Christian nationalism. Let's put it in the right order. I don't want to say Christian white nationalism, because there's nothing Christian about it. But white Christian nationalism is satanic. But Pete Hegseth believes it. Kristi Noem, I'm not sure if she really believes it. She identifies as a Christian and spouts the same thing. But so does Trump. And we know that he doesn't believe shit. So all he believes in is himself and the consolidation of power. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to conflate the MAGA message with legacy and heritage of what it means to be an American. And to be honest, in a sense, they're right. In a sense, the heritage that they speak of is real. It is the culture of power. It's the culture of power that established the United States, perpetuated the United States, perpetuated its expansion throughout the world, its world domination, its world power, white supremacy, and white settler colonialism were the fuel that did that. So they're right to reference back to that and say, this is our heritage. That's true. But it's not the heritage of every American today. And that is what they are scared of. They know that very soon, if they don't do something about it, that those who identify as white, those who have the ancestry of the culture of power, are going to be the minority in this country, in this landmass known as the United States. And that terrifies them. It terrifies them. So of course they're going to put pictures up of paintings of manifest destiny and saying it's our American heritage. But the implicit message is, if you don't belong to the specific white normativity that represents, or if you don't assimilate to it, then you're out. You're going to be like the buffalo. You're going to be like the indigenous Americans in that painting who are scurrying off, being pushed off the face of the earth. According to the painting, we know that the indigenous people are still alive and well within this landmass we call the United States of America. And so those of us who do not support or identify, or who are not proud of that heritage, you're public enemy number one. So they'll take a brown person like Kash Patel, who is assimilated to white normativity, at least in order to secure his position of power, over a quote unquote white dissenter. So please understand that this attack on those who don't support the narrative, the mythology, you're considered a savage. You might have the right skin tone, but you are considered less than human, which is the only way you could justify manifest destiny in the first place. God wants us to be in power. God wants us to be in control. God prefers us and our civilization over all other forms of life. So there's no mistake that if you look at that painting that was posted today by the Department of Homeland Security celebrating manifest destiny, on the left-hand side, the dark side, the side of the scurrying away Native Americans, we also see wildlife running for their lives. We see a bear in the bottom left of that painting, and we see the buffalo in the top left of that painting, and the Native Americans running away in the center left of that painting. And this is what they want to celebrate. But that's really not what's going on. It's not about celebrating that. It is, but it's really sending a message. Sending a message. If you don't like it, this is what's going to happen to you. If you don't like it, you can leave. But guess what? We're not leaving. And this fight is a fight that they can't win as long as those of us in the majority continue to fight. And that's what we have to do. We have to fight against this. Sorry, I'm trying to park. And we can't sit idle. This is the thing that drives me nuts. When people think that, oh, this will just pass with the next administration. No, the damage that's being done right now is going to require far more effort than people realize. I do believe that we're going to win. I do believe that when I say we, I say, we can say Americans, but I want to be careful there and explain there is no Americans without defeating white supremacy. White supremacy being defeated is the only way there will ever be an America that lives up to the ideals that were stated in the Western Enlightenment and then inherited by the writers and framers of the Constitution. But let's not mistake the fact that the historical context of their beliefs did not see other human beings on that same level playing field as all men are created equal. And we shouldn't pretend otherwise. We shouldn't retroactively state otherwise. It's time to grow up, in other words. It's time to grow up from these childish ideas that are represented in this painting of manifest destiny. And it's time to call out people like Kristi, Noem, and the Trump regime and any other person who is trying to gaslight you to think that it's something else. This is Avi Penhollow. You're watching the Proximity Portal, and look forward to look for my article on Substack coming out on this very issue in short order. I just didn't have time to publish it today, but I will get it going. Leave your comments. I want to know what you think about this painting. Go look it up. Let me know how you feel. How do you feel about manifest destiny? Is it something that should be celebrated today and accepted, that God wanted other people to be pushed out and other people to be dehumanized in order for this nation to be established? Or can we take a more mature view now and a critical view of history that acknowledges that these atrocities of the past and the mixed, I don't want to even call it a blessing. It's a blessing and a curse, in many ways. We're all like living in this, nightmare of propaganda, and we have to see through it. What they did today was a clear message, and people better pay attention to it and not just brush it off. Have a great day, you guys.